Welcome to Penguin Classics On Air. No other sisterhood in literary history is as celebrated and studied as the Bronte sisters, the authors of iconic literary works that have inspired generations of readers. Penguin Classics publishes the three best-known novels by each of the remarkable sisters in a one-of-a-kind deluxe edition entitled The Bronte Sisters. With French flaps and luxurious packaging, readers may enjoy one beautiful volume that contains Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, and Agnes Grey by Anne Bronte. With us today is Sheila Kohler, the Penguin author of Becoming Jane Eyre, a beautifully imagined tale of the Bronte sisters and the writing of Jane Eyre. Delicately unraveling the powerful and inextricable connections between one of fiction's most indelible heroines and the remarkable woman who created her, Sheila Kohler's novel will appeal to fans of historical fiction and, of course, the millions of readers who adore Jane Eyre and the Bronte sisters. Sheila was born in Johannesburg, South Africa. She later lived in Paris for 15 years, then moved to the U.S. in 1981 and earned an MFA in writing at Columbia. She currently teaches at Princeton University. Becoming Jane Eyre is her 10th book. Her work has been featured in the New York Times, O Magazine, and was included in the Best American Short Stories. She has twice won an O. Henry Prize, as well as an Open Fiction Award, a Willa Cather Prize, and a Smart Family Foundation Prize. Her novel, Cracks, was nominated for an Impact Award and has been made into a feature film to be distributed by IFC. Thank you, Sheila, for coming in. We're excited to talk about your book, and let's get started with the questions. When did you become interested in the Brontes? What do you think it is about Jane Eyre and other work by the Brontes that speaks to people so powerfully?
Well, I became interested in the Brontes at a very early age. I was 7, actually, when one of my aunts, my mother had 2 sisters, so they were 3 sisters, and one of the aunts actually read me the beginning of Jane Eyre, and I think I was just 7. It was just after my own father had died, and that scene in the Red Room just had a tremendous impression on me. Of course, I went back to Jane Eyre and to some of the other Bronte books, Wuthering Heights, again and again, many times, like so many people. Why do these books, why have they remained so popular? I think partly because they are wonderful stories. I actually just reread Jane Eyre once again, thinking of talking with you about it, and I was just struck by what a great story it is. It's just so remarkably well constructed. And there's just one event after the next, followed by a sort of lull when something good or relatively good happens. Mm-hmm. So I think there's that makes them so readable. And then there's also a quality of truth in the books, I think, which is something that was probably very important to all of the girls. So they wanted to say something about life that was true too. So I think you have both these qualities of the really wonderful story and at the same time an effort to say something that's meaningful to people at any age and any time.
I think your readers will also have a question about whether the book that you wrote is fiction or nonfiction, and where did you do your research? How did you write Charlotte's story?
I tried to stay as close to the facts as I could, but of course we never know everything about anyone, for that matter. So there's always the crevice, the dark place, the thing that we don't know. And that's where the fiction comes into it. And that's what interested me. And the spark that started the book really was a line from a biography by Lyndall Gordon, where she says, "No one knows what happened in that dark room when Charlotte sat beside her father's bedside." And I felt, well, that's what I want to find out. That's what I want to know. And I think that's where fiction comes from. So that started me reading. And then, of course, I read a great deal. I read, of course, all the Bronte books. Anne Bronte too, who's sometimes not quite as well known. I loved her books. I read, all the great biographers. And then, as I said, I went to Harworth and walked around the parsonage and then walked across the moors. And I think that's really essential to understand their work. It was an amazing experience. I think one can really understand how they came to write those books if you spend some time walking through those fields and feeling that very low sky. So all of that gave me ideas and helped me in the writing of the book.
And what are the similarities and differences in Charlotte Bronte's life to her creation, Jane Eyre?
Oh, yes. Well, I think that often as a writer, one tends to make a character more active than perhaps one's been in life. And I think maybe Charlotte Bronte was able to do that a little bit. Even if you just take that beginning of the book where Jane Eyre retaliates when John Reed throws the book at her and she actually strikes out like a wild animal. I don't know that Charlotte Bronte ever did anything like that in her life, but I've noticed in my own fiction that I'll sometimes take something that's happened to me in life and then reverse it in a way so that the character is able to be a little more active. And I have the feeling that possibly Charlotte Bronte was able to create this character that we all fall in love with Jane Eyre, who's so vital and who speaks up and who is able to say what she thinks, taking the high road, the moral high road, which is so appealing to us, I think.